To quote Loki, Disney must truly be desperate because they have abandoned their long running tradition of insulting the fans, doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on all of the wokeness and the rhetoric, and they're now attempting to put out the fires. Now, this is too little too late. Rachel Zegler, whatever the hell her name is, it doesn't matter. No one will remember her in T minus 2 years. The fact is, she did too much damage, especially when the climate, due to the woke leftoids, is already radioactive. So any semblance of wokeness or disrespect to a franchise is going to be met with far more pushback than it would have been like 20 years ago. Because what this woman is saying is something that a lot of really mentally ill, morally degenerate, bottom-feeding, subhuman piles of garbage have not just reiterated onto the internet, they have regurgitated into our favorite bits of media. We have seen this for the last 10 years plus. So, this isn't a new trick, and people are sick of it. They were sick of it when it was first starting, they're sick of it now. They want it to stop. They want Snow White to be Snow White. They don't want it to be a race swap character. They don't want a message about diversity, inclusion, and equity, all this other feminist female bullshit. They want none of it. They want a traditionally told fairy tale. Something that is on another level in terms of quality. Something that takes the original and elevates it. Something that is a passion project. Something that is creative and innovative and interesting while paying homage to the roots of the original and doing something that the original couldn't do because it was animated. You can do that. You can bring a level of realness that the cartoon just can't. But that would require you actually being good at your job and hiring the right people and going about doing the real work. Disney for years has been skating by on their goodwill, and that goodwill is gone. They no longer have the reputation they once did. They are no longer the king of the hill. They are going to have to fight for every inch. But the way that you do that is not a 40-minute sob video between Holly Bailey and Rachel Zegler, because the critical drinker in his video is absolutely right. These two women are not the same. Yes, their characters were both race swapped. Yes, there was initial pushback from that. But while Holly Bailey was quiet, didn't react, Rachel Zegler went in the immediate opposite direction, and it caused devastating ramifications. Because people don't like race swapping. They don't like gender replacement. They don't like any of this. Because it makes no sense. Aesthetically, it looks horrible. They changed the entire movie to make this work. And it doesn't work. And so continuously, people are being subjected to terrible media, and they want that to stop. So, in this interview, and we're going to watch a little bit from my good old buddy, the Critical Drinker. I definitely recommend that you go watch his channel. He's fantastic.
Why did you say that name? Formerly Snow White and the 7 diverse gender non-conforming magical individuals, and recently changed to Snow White and the awkwardly composited CGI dwarves that look more visually jarring than putting Mr. Blobby into the next Saw movie. Anyway, a combination of poor initial concept, unflattering set photos, and incendiary statements by lead actress Rachel Zegler created the perfect storm of fan backlash that put the studio into all-out panic mode and forced them to delay the release by a full year while they desperately tried to fix the problem. The movie itself might be salvageable with rewrites and reshoots, although that's debatable, but the bigger problem now is how to change the perception of its controversial star. I mean, how do you get people to like someone whose public image is tanked worse than Jada Pinkett Smith?
It's Hollywood, baby.
Well, the answer came in the form of a variety interview between Rachel Zegler and Little Mermaid star Halle Bailey, who got together to bond over their shared experiences as Disney princesses. All 40 minutes of it. Now, a big chunk of the interview is just the two of them blowing smoke up each other's arses, but there is a point where they actually discuss something of substance, and that's the fan criticisms of their casting, given that they both played race-swapped versions of original characters. Now, one thing you might notice is how different Rachel Zegler looks, talks, and acts now compared to all those infamous interviews that got her into so much trouble.
There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But
The brash, abrasive, outspoken Zegler is gone now, and in her place is a quiet, thoughtful, humble young woman who has nothing but praise and reverence for the story of Snow White.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
Several months later.
The cartoon is so beloved. It's like a monumental moment in film history.
Yeah.
It was like the first feature-length
Yeah.
cartoon movie, to the point where it won honorary Oscars and
Yeah.
all of these amazing things that happened for that film.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to jump in here and add that the transformation that you just saw is basically having a come to Jesus meeting. That's essentially what it is. Where you have people saying, okay, well, your career is essentially over unless you do something to repair the damage that you did. And this is basically like you crashed daddy's car, you wrecked it, and so now you're coming back and you're all soft and sweet and nice and, But no one's buying it. No one believes this transformation. Because when she was in a natural setting that isn't an interview like this, when she was in a natural setting, that's who she was. She was that crass, obnoxious person that was disrespectful to the source material and disrespectful to the fans. And, this isn't going to be a love story. This is going to be my story about empowerment and empowering myself. Well, first of all, this whole female empowerment thing, it's a total lie. We know women aren't powerful. That's why they have to constantly tell you that. What did Tyrion Lannister say? Anyone who must say, I am the king is no true king. Anyone who must tell you that they're brilliant and strong and independent and all this stunning and brave, they're not. They're not. They know they're not. We know they're not. But society demands that we affirm them. Otherwise, we're misogynistic, and my answer is no. A lot of the problems that we see in society, especially in media, are a result of trying to create this artificial female environment. I'm not saying that women are to blame in totality. It's part of a culture within Hollywood. It's part of these male feminists. It's a combination of degeneracy and all this other stuff that is metastasized into what we're seeing today. It's a Frankenstein's monster of bad female-focused ideas. Because you didn't see this in the 80s. There were bad movies, to be sure. But if you notice, in the 80s, there were a lot of really good movies. In the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, there were good movies, and women were allowed to play any role they wanted, and there was none of this. There was absolutely none of this. You know, it's like you think of Scarface, and you think of Michelle Pfeiffer. You think of Terminator. You think of Sarah Connor. You think of Alien. You think of Sigourney Weaver. You think of Ghostbusters. You think of the Ghostbusters, and you think of Sigourney Weaver. You think of Star Trek. Well, who are some of the main characters in Star Trek? You've got Beverly Crusher, you've got Deanna Troi, you had Tasha Yar, but, obviously she died in the first season. But my point is that in most of these iconic classic shows that we think about, most of these video games that we think about, Women are all there. And somehow, some way, they were able to write and create characters for women that were so good that these movies became classics. And it wasn't like, oh, well, we watched Aladdin just for Aladdin. No, you watched Aladdin for Aladdin and Jasmine. You watch these old Disney movies for the male character and the female character, and ultimately for them to fall in love and win the day. So it's only a modern problem where women are ruining all this. It's progressing way too fast. This feminization of entertainment, it's going way too fast, and it's being pushed by a lot of men, because there's only one leader of Disney, and that's Bob Iger, and he pushed this shit. Kathleen Kennedy can be blamed for all that she did, but she would never have been in that position if not for Bob Iger. So don't think that I'm just simply blaming women. I'm not. But feminization in this twisted, warped way, this woke way, is ultimately what's destroying this. And if Rachel Zegler had checked herself and come out as this really thoughtful, really intelligent woman saying, well, I know that I'm not traditionally what the character necessarily looked like, but I love the original material and I'm going to give it my best shot for the fans, what do you think the reception would be? It would have been completely different. Now, people would have still been upset that there's race swapping, but that's nothing to do with her. That's because these woke imbeciles, these degenerate, low IQ, bottom-feeding, subhuman pieces of trash that are part of this cult, have done everything to antagonize and anger people. And so ultimately they would be mad at the studio, not at her. She reacted badly, and this is the end result.
The reason that you and I really get to sit here today, because it
Yes.
made Disney what it is.
Wow, that's quite the turnaround, eh? Whatever could have brought about such a change in attitudes? Don't worry, we'll talk about that later. Believe that. But the really interesting part for now is what happens when they discuss the backlash they both experienced in their roles, because this, dear viewer, is the real purpose of the entire 40-minute interview. Deflection.
The way you are just so graceful and respond and it's just the most beautiful thing to see. Because it's hard being women under the spotlight. People are so critical.
See, there's some very smart psychology at work here, and it's not.
Let me step in. If you want to watch the rest of the video from The Drinker, I definitely recommend it. But the problem is that you have a lot of these narcissistic, low IQ bimbos working in Hollywood today that have the biggest egos that you've ever seen, including just erasing film history. So you will see every couple of years a woman come out and say, well, this is the first female action movie. This is what what's her name? Jennifer Lawrence did. And there's a bunch of other women who did it as well. Well, before Hunger Games, there was Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft. I mean, I remember that there were women in action roles in the past. This idea is absolutely stunning to me. It's narcissism and delusion, and if you don't conform to it, if you don't buy into it, then you're an other. You're a bad guy. You're an alt-righter. You're a neo-Nazi. You're a white supremacist. You're all this other stuff. When really these people are the dregs of society. They are the most incapable of thought, incapable of memory, incapable of humility people that we've ever seen. They don't have any boundaries. They don't have any standards. They'll say whatever they want. Whatever comes into their head, they'll blurt it out. No matter how toxic or foul or ignorant or downright stupid and preposterous, they'll say it, and then the corporation will try to play damage control. The answer is absolutely not. No one is buying that. No one is going to give her a second chance. She blew it. So, I don't know what they think they're doing. Trying to manipulate fans yet again. But people are onto their game. They're not going to allow themselves to be tricked yet again. So, Disney, how about this? cast the right person in the first place. Anyone who even utters a word of wokeness, you fire them from a fucking cannon into the sun, and then you bring in people that know the material, care about the material, and are going to make it their passion project, and are going to deliver the best experience for the fan. Oh, and by the way, you're not going to give a huge $200 million budget. You're going to start with $30 million, and you're going to go from there. Because we've seen magic happen on budgets lower than $50 million. So it doesn't take $200 million. You're going to cut back. You're going to get leaner. You're going to make the product better. You're going to put it out. The marketing is going to be gushing for fans. It's going to be effusive for fans. You're betting on nostalgia. And so you're going to kiss the ass of every person who's not woke, who's not part of this identity politics. You're not going to mention race. You're not going to mention gender. You're not going to mention identity politics. You're not going to mention, well, the prince is not going to have a love story. You're going to go over all the beats of what made Snow White good, and you're going to market it that way, and you're going to put it out there front and center. You bet your ass there's going to be a romance here. You bet your ass the seven deadly sins, the 7 deadly dwarves are going to be in this. You bet your ass it's going to be a love story. Anyone saying differently, that person is fired, or you keep them out of the media. But these days of you fucking up, creating garbage, and then doubling down on it in some narcissistic bid of delusion, those days are absolutely fucking over. Get over yourself. You've destroyed your reputation. You've destroyed your brand. You've destroyed all your characters. Nobody respects you anymore. Nobody likes you. You're not making money anymore. You are deflating your brand, all for this illusion and delusion of wokeness. And you think that this interview is going to do anything? First of all, nobody watches Variety. Nobody watches Variety at all. They get virtually no views. So your 40-minute Variety interview is not going to do the trick. You're going to actually have to put in some hard work and pick the right people and make sure it's in their contract. If you utter a fraction of a word out of place in the name of wokeness, not only are we going to fire you, we're going to ruin you. We are going to absolutely destroy you and take everything that you're worth if you sign this contract and be employed by us. Because the days of woke people running their mouth and destroying brands, that should be over. It's cost you enough money. It's cost you enough reputation. You are being destroyed by it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my thought on Rachel Zegler's redemption and apology tour. Let me know what you think. Did I get something wrong? Leave a like, leave a comment. See you next time.